Welcome to another episode of Raising the Bar, TKJE podcast. In this episode, we hear from business owner Georgea Frank-Tan, an accomplished marketer, entrepreneur, and coach. Join us for her story and learn how she's revamping a business in New Mexico that's focused on providing a positive work environment with a competitive compensation. Plan your steps and take flight. TKJE, Raising the Bar. Welcome back to another episode of Raising the Bar, TKJE podcast. Today we have Georgea Frank-Tan, the new owner of Exhibit Visual Concepts. So I'm excited about this one. How are you today?
I'm really well. Thank you, Ken.
Good. Well, I know we've been trying to get this done and you've been busy and I've been busy. So again, I appreciate you taking the time. Now, as far as your business and what you do, give us an idea. So what inspired you to get into this type of business?
Yeah, so I think like most things in life, it's kind of a winding road and not a straight line, though we like to imagine things as straight lines. So my background is in advertising and marketing agency side, kind of largely around the world. I've worked in the UK, in the Channel Islands, Bahamas, New York, Barcelona, Spain, Amsterdam, but I'm from Albuquerque. My husband and I came back to Albuquerque during COVID, and we were looking for an investment opportunity in business acquisition. And so this business, truthfully, was intentional as far as an acquisition goes, but the industry or the type of business that wasn't really a consideration. It wasn't important that it was an exhibit house. What was important was to find a strong, stable business with a positive cash flow that had systems and processes in place and the ability to remove the previous owner over time and implant a new one, being myself. We also needed to be able to get SBA financing, and so we needed to have some kind of experience in the industry. So with my background in hospitality and marketing, we looked at hospitality and marketing ventures. And from that lot, Exhibit was one of the best options. And I don't know if your listeners have ever purchased a business before, but it's a lot harder than it seems because you have people who have put their life's work into growing something from a small, tiny startup in their living room into something that's worth buying. And over that time, they attach a lot of emotional connection to their identity into that business. And they might think that they're ready to sell, but when it comes down to it, it can become challenging. And so finding an amenable seller who's willing to be reasonable and flexible is quite hard. And we did find someone who was willing and able to meet us on that with this purchase.
Wow. So that's really awesome, especially as you went through the process and trying to find what you were looking for. Now, identifying and seizing the opportunity itself. So how did you identify and seize this particular opportunity in your industry?
Yeah, so we were looking for about 2.5 years for the acquisition opportunity, and we we're working with business brokers. We were looking at business broker websites. We developed a number of relationships with brokers so they would send us deals directly before they were listed. This opportunity, honestly, was the part where like the Hail Mary, where like life just presents you the opportunity. We had a deal that had fallen through, and it was like 1 in 10 over 2 years. And when you're looking to buy a business, the amount of time and effort and money that you're putting into legal fees is extensive. And so after this other deal fell through, we were like, we're done. I can't do this. We're going another path. This wasn't for us. And the next day, this business got listed. And it was very similar to the deal that had just fallen through. And we thought that it must have been the same business just trying to get out of their confidentiality clause or the exclusivity clause with the broker. And so we called like in a haughtiness, like, what is this business? What are you trying to get around? And it was a new business. And it was crazy because it was exactly the business that we had, very similar to the business we had just been looking to purchase. And so we understood it very well. We understood the numbers very well. We understood what the payroll should look like. We understood the model. And so we were able to go through the process very quickly. And we had also been SBA pre-approved for the other business. And so what normally takes 6 months took us 3 months, which was also very appealing to the seller. So, man, I think your specific question was, how did we seize the opportunity? And the crazy thing is that it was probably 50% effort and 50% luck, and maybe result of 2 years of effort and finally that being realized.
Wow. So, and I know you said luck, but luck equates to opportunity and preparation.
Yeah,
So in all reality, it sounds like you were pretty prepared for the opportunity when you were faced with it. So, and a lot of people say you're lucky, but in all reality, I think you were prepared for it, which is
absolutely.
really, really cool.
Absolutely. I mean, I think
So
if we hadn't gone through that whole process, I mean, it was a 6 month process for that deal that fell through. We would not have been prepared to seize the opportunity. Absolutely not. And probably that's why the other deal fell through. We weren't prepared. But after that, we were.
there you go. Well, when it comes to the lessons learned as you were telling that story and how you got to where you are today, what are some of the most important lessons you've learned from failure or the mistakes that you've made?
Yeah, this is such an important one for me as an entrepreneur. And I think probably most entrepreneurs. Wow, the most important, I think, is to question yourself always. Don't insist on being right. I don't know if you or your listeners are familiar with Ray Dalio and his Principles of Life and Work, but it's one of my favorite books and philosophies. And he says in that in most situations there's someone who's right and wrong, and he would rather know if he's the one that's wrong than insist that he's right. And I think most of my failures have been around me insisting that I'm right instead of challenging myself to find out if I'm wrong. And so now in almost every situation, I'm asking, am I wrong? Am I wrong? And I'm looking for data to prove that I'm wrong, not to prove that I'm right. Um, so I've learned to stress test myself, to not just um, assume that I know everything, and to really, really dive into data and be analytical about things. Because I think in business, most of the mistakes I've made were quick decisions where I didn't rely on going back into data, which I know is what I try to do. And sometimes you just think, yeah, this is the right thing, this is it, and then you made a mistake. And so I really try to implement a codified decision making process that's repeatable.
Huh, I like that. So seeking out in different situations, finding out if you are wrong instead of trying to prove that you're right. I like that. Now, when it comes to decision making, so as you're seeking out, trying to figure out if you're right or wrong, or, where am I wrong within this situation? How do you approach decision making when faced with critical or crucial choices when it comes to your business?
Absolutely. So I think the first step is to step back and to allow yourself to be highly analytical. It's very easy to let emotions move us in decision making, and emotions play an important part in decision making. Absolutely. I'm not saying to remove them, but to look at the situation, to step back and really, really be analytical, really create pros and cons lists, really dive into what the data is saying. And then with that data, do step into some contemplation, do step into the opportunity for, and this is going to sound kind of woo woo and crazy, right? But for your subconscious to give you some feedback, right? Sleep on it. Take a long walk. See what happens when you're not actively mulling on that, but that data is kind of in the back of you stirring. And you'll find that different ideas start to pop up. And that is your subconscious and your conscious mind working together to assimilate information. And I don't think we invite that opportunity frequently enough. We're kind of scared of the subconscious, or there's always this talk about like being your heart or your head. And I think there's actually a place where they both serve us incredibly well if we're
Yeah.
willing to marry them. So first step back, be analytical, get into the data. Next step even farther back and don't think about it and see what happens. And then come back to that decision again with a fresh face. And usually brand new ideas will come to mind.
Wow, I like it. So when in doubt, zoom out,
Yeah,
right? If you're looking at a problem too close, when in doubt, zoom out and get that 15 or 20,000 foot view of the situation, and never make decisions in valleys, right? You never want to
exactly.
be upset or anything like that. So I've tried to live by that, and I love your theory on that. Bringing the two together and making a solid decision so you don't regret later,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I
which is
think the
really
same
awesome.
about time in general. In the world today, we're constantly in a rush and everything feels like it has to be really fast paced. And I mean, one of your questions was, what have I learned? It's not to make decisions too quickly. Like that's the number one thing is, and so one of my mentors taught me this years ago, was a very successful business. He said, every time someone asked me something, I said, give me 24 hours to think about it. He said, even if I don't think I need 24 hours, it makes them think I'm really smart.
Exactly. Oh, I love it. Now, within the business that you just purchased, and you mentioned that someone had taken the time and put their life and everything into this business and leaving it for future generations. So, when it comes to legacy, what legacy do you hope to leave behind through your business endeavors and the things that you've learned along the way?
Yeah, this is such an interesting question. It's a fusion of everything that I am. I actually posted on LinkedIn about this a few days ago. I think in my mother was a social worker for many, many years, and in my early career, I wanted to be a human rights lawyer. And I thought that success and fulfillment came from serving people in an altruistic way. And I was very negative about business. Like I didn't think that it was a good pursuit. Business equaled bad to me. And I've since come around, obviously, as a business owner, but I still bring a lot of that people focused mentality and that altruism into business. And honestly, the legacy that I want to leave is not around, like, my goals are not around profit, they're not around growth, but that's necessary to meet my goals. What I want is to transform the way people think about business. I want people to have a good place to work. I want to attract top talent. I want people in New Mexico to know that there are phenomenal opportunities that can pay well, that can create a balance between family and work and life. And I want people to be able to contribute back to the community because their work is meaningful. And I think that the business provides a hub for that. And so the legacy is not necessarily in what I've created, but in what I enable people to experience in doing what they have to do every day, which is work, because we all got to show up and do the work.
Absolutely. I like it. So, leaving something behind is not something physical, but writing and being able to give people the ability and know that they have the ability to continue on. So that is fantastic. Now, certain qualities like that you want to kind of give to people or teach to people when it comes to leadership, what leadership qualities added to or contributed to your business's success?
Yeah. So this is one of my fundamental and core beliefs, and it's around humility and collaboration. And I think everywhere that we are, we've brought what we experienced in the past. And I have, like many others, experienced some really negative bosses, right? Some really
Yeah.
disempowering leadership. And what I've learned in becoming a leader is a lot about personality types and how you hire and the disc analysis. And I think there's a certain quadrant, if anybody's familiar with the disc analysis, it's like a four-piece quadrant. With four personality types that are on a spectrum, and the top left is a dominant personality type, and most that quadrant are usually CEOs and top salespeople because they're dominant and they're closers and they run the roost and they're very linear in their thinking, and that makes them successful. But it also makes them challenging to work with. It makes them sometimes micromanagers. And so, unfortunately, most of us have worked under someone like that. I'm in a different quadrant, which means I've got something to overcome because I need to learn to be a better closer. But my heart is in it for the people. And so I think the leadership quality that I see really as stepping into a new role that has been managed by someone else before is servant leadership, and is wanting, and it goes back to the same thing of wanting to leave a legacy of them being more successful than myself and then the business, really. And it comes from me just wanting to help them in a really deeply human way out of mutual respect and understanding. And I think, not to get preachy, but that's even like that's what gospel is. Like that's just what good humanity is meeting people where they are and caring respectfully to want to help them and have mutual, and now I'm like on a tangent, but I think the top leadership quality that I have that helps me be successful is being human centered.
Okay.
Sorry, that's
Okay.
a
Awesome.
long-winded thing where I got like heated.
No, no, that's okay. It need to be said, and it's a different place, and people have different place where they come from as far as their business and where they want to take people to along with their business. So I totally understand. Now, if you could, can you give our listeners just one piece of business advice that has stuck with you on your journey Since you started this, what is the one thing that you can give to our listeners that could help them as they start or within their business journey?
Yeah, I would say to really just listen when people talk, whether it's your client or your employee or your mentor. It's very easy to be thinking when someone's talking about what your retort will be or about what your feelings are. And this goes back to all the other questions, right? But where that human connection comes in is when you're willing to really listen and to hear what that person has to say and to onboard it, even if it hurts your feelings or proves you wrong. I think that's the place where we can all grow and we can all connect is when we're willing to be active listeners.
Wow. Wow. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time. This is awesome. So, as far as our listeners and people that get a hold of this, how can they get a hold of you, contact you, or hire you for what their needs are? How can they find you?
Yeah, so we are, if anybody's local in Albuquerque, we are off of Jefferson, 6201 Jefferson. We've got a small local showroom that you can come by and see us. You can visit our website. It's exhib-it.com. That's exhib-it.com. And we can help small businesses all the way up to medium-sized businesses meet all of their event material needs, from your local community tabling event where you need a table throw and maybe a banner stand and some business cards, all the way up to your large trade show booth.
Thank you so much. I know it's been a while and we've been working on it. So I really appreciate you and much success to you and your business. This has been a great interview, great information. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Ken. Likewise, it was great chatting.
TKJ